Let's take a look at the fish I currently have in the system. Hello everyone, ReeferGil here. As you may or may not know, this is version 2 of this build. During the progress of version 1, my tank broke out with marine velvet and killed almost all my fish. I have a video link to that awful experience down below in the description. As usual, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscription button. It won't cost you a thing. Don't forget to show your support by hitting that like button, and be sure to follow me on Instagram where I post daily real-time updates. Now, all these fish came in as very small juveniles. They all grew much faster than I expected, so if you have a small tank and you're thinking about buying a juvenile fish that you know will outgrow your tank, that process can occur pretty fast depending on what type of fish you have. So just keep that in mind. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it. The first fish that we'll be discussing is this silver belly wrasse, also known as a white belly wrasse or a yellow and purple wrasse. The reason this fish is number one is because it's the only fish that actually survived the marine velvet outbreak last year. This little guy has been through a whole lot and is now enjoying a very comfortable life. Because of what he went through, I find myself watching him very carefully to make sure that no one's bullying him and to make sure he's getting his fair share of food. I have quite the soft spot for this guy. When I first purchased this guy, I thought I was buying a yellow chorus wrasse. I figured its body wasn't all yellow because I was buying it as a juvenile and thought it would eventually change colors. It turns out he's not a yellow chorus wrasse at all. He is the smallest and the slowest growing wrasse I have. He has a two-tone body, the upper part being a bright yellow while the lower half is more of a white than silver or purple. These guys prefer a minimum tank size of 50 gallons and will grow a maximum of 5 inches. They are reef safe but with caution. I'm guessing that most wrasses are with caution because they can go after inverts like snails, shrimp, crabs, and corals like clams. Additionally, all wrasses have the propensity to jump out of an aquarium if you don't have a lid or a screen top. Another fun fact about wrasses is they will bury themselves in the sand when they're stressed or when they're turning in for the night. I've shown my wrasse in past videos burying itself, but it's worth showing again. Since we started off with a wrasse, we'll go ahead and cover the rest of the wrasses that I have. Since we just mentioned them, the next one up will be the yellow chorus wrasse. You can see the resemblance between him and the silver belly wrasse. This wrasse also maxes out at 5 inches, but it grew much faster than the silver belly wrasse. This guy has an eye-catching bright yellow body with black dots on the dorsal fin. The yellow chorus wrasse is constantly on the hunt for pests and food and should be kept in a minimum tank size of 50 gallons or more. This next guy is the coolest looking wrasse that I have in my opinion. This is the orange back fairy wrasse. Unfortunately, fairy wrasses have a reputation for being lazy hunters. So if you're trying to get rid of some sort of pest outbreak in your system and you're considering getting a wrasse, don't buy a fairy wrasse. On the positive side, because these wrasses are lazy hunters, these wrasses are reef safe as they are the least likely of the wrasse family to mess with any of your inverts or clams. You can see where it gets its name from. The top of the wrasse is a bright orange while the rest of the body has blue and purple. It maxes out in growth at about 4.5 inches and prefers a minimum tank size of 75 gallons. I'm not quite sure why this wrasse requires a larger tank than the previous 2 wrasses since it is smaller. The final wrasse is the largest of 4 wrasses that I have and is also a very aggressive hunter. This is a green wrasse. This guy will grow up to 8 inches, which is pretty beast for a wrasse. His body is a solid light green, which gives the aquarium a nice splash of unique color. Recently, this guy did grab onto a large emerald crab and made a meal out of it. I've also noticed that I can't find a fire shrimp and a skunk shrimp. My shrimp used to all be out and about, but not anymore. They're all hiding in the rocks and I'm wondering if this green wrasse is the reason. I'm really hoping by keeping this guy well fed that he won't turn on me and start eating the rest of my inverts. I have lots of shrimp in the tank that I really enjoy watching. I'm keeping an eye on this guy. The green wrasse needs a minimum tank size of 75 gallons. Next up are my guests' favorites. This is a pair of either fancy snowflakes or Picasso clownfish, or maybe one of each. I have trouble keeping up with the designer clownfish. I don't know. I bought these 2 guys to replace my 2 black and white Darwin clownfish that I had for 8 years. Unfortunately, both of those guys died during the outbreak of marine velvet last year. I recently purchased 2 new Darwin clownfish to replace these guys. As luck would have it, both of those 2 replacements died in quarantine from either marine velvet or Brooklynella. I'm leaving the quarantine tank fallow for a couple of months before I take one last crack at getting a pair of Darwin clownfish. In the meantime, I most certainly do enjoy watching these 2 grow from little babies and make their way up to adulthood. They love their anemone and never venture far away from it. The one with most white on its body is looking like it's going to become the female as it's getting larger than the second clownfish. They're both really a cool orange with random white patterns on their bodies outlined with black. They're still both juveniles and are slowly growing. When it comes to clownfish, the males can change sex and become females, but the females cannot become males. So if you're looking for a pair, don't buy two large clownfish as you're probably buying two females. Instead, look for babies or an established adult pair. The female can grow up to 3 inches while the male will be smaller. They'll need a tank size of 25 gallons or larger. Here's the super colorful and stunning purple Tang. This guy is definitely the alpha male of the tank. He is absolutely eye-catching and one of my personal favorites. I keep him well fed with supplementing his pellet food with frozen food and Julian Sprung's purple nori. Here you see everyone loving the purple nori, which is pretty funny because in the last system, none of my fish would touch it. Those fish only ate the red nori, while these fish in this tank won't touch the red nori, so go figure. Getting back to the purple Tang, this guy is dark purple with yellow tail and yellow pectoral fins. Its head area is covered with a pattern of black polka dots, while its body has horizontal black stripes. The purple Tang can grow up to 10 inches and when fully grown should be in an aquarium that is 125 gallons or larger. Tangs are aggressive towards their own species, so use extreme caution trying to introduce more than one Tang into a small system like mine. Your best bet is to introduce Tangs at the same time to reduce the chances of one of them becoming territorial. After this purple Tang was introduced, I did try to introduce a small yellow Tang. That poor guy got beat up, so I ended up removing him and finding him a nice home. I did introduce this hippo Tang, also known as a regal Tang, at the same time as a purple Tang. I had zero issues, plus they have different body shapes, so that helps too. Tangs are mostly aggressive with other Tangs of the same genus with the same body shape. This hippo Tang's face became scarred up after it fought off head and lateral line erosion disease, or HLLE, as a baby. I didn't think he was going to pull through, but he did. He fought it off like a champ and has been healthy since. The hippo Tang can grow as large as 1 foot, super huge, which will require him to be in a tank size of 180 gallons or larger. So yeah, one day I'm going to have to pull this guy out and find him a bigger tank for his home. Till then, I really enjoy him. His body is a really cool blue with yellow fins and a yellow tail. He also has cool black pinstripe design going on and black edges on the dorsal fin and the lower fin. Next, I present to you the flame angel, another fish that draws in the eyes. This guy is considered to be reef safe with caution. There are a number of aquarists who have had a bad experience with dwarf angelfish in their tank. Some can go after your corals and become a nightmare. But this is the second one that I've had in a reef tank and the second one to be an absolute model citizen. I'm thinking as the industry continues to tank raise fish we would otherwise have taken from the ocean, the tank raised fish don't have the same survival instincts as their family members in the wild. And therefore, tank raised flame angelfish are probably less likely to nip at your corals. But please, if you have a tank raised lionfish, don't go trying to pet them based on what I just said. The flame angel is a bright orange with contrasting black vertical stripes and an accent of blue on the top and the back fins. Seriously, an awesome looking fish. It grows up to 4 inches and should be in a minimum tank size of 70 gallons or more. The blue throat triggerfish's body shape makes it the most unique fish in my tank in my opinion. Typically, triggerfish will make a meal out of your reef aquarium. There are only 2 species of triggerfish that are considered reef safe with caution that I'm aware of. The other one is a Niger triggerfish. I went with the blue throat since it seems that it was the least aggressive of the 2 triggerfish that you keep in your tank. I wanted to buy the more colorful male, but since I bought mine when it was really small, I couldn't tell what sex it was, so I just kind of rolled the dice. As it grew, I realized I had the less colorful female. I was a little bummed out, but I prefer a fish that was not nipping at my corals or chasing other fish around, and that's what I ended up with. But over the past month or so, the dull colored female started getting more colorful. It started getting the yellow tail and the trademark blue coloration under the mouth, and its body started to darken up. Come to find out, these fish can actually change colors back and forth. I'm not sure if they actually changed their sex or if they just changed their colors. Either way, mine is looking like it's heading towards the more colorful display. I've also noticed that over the past 2 months, mine has developed a pale spot on top of its head. I think it scraped itself on the rock while trying to dart into the rock structure. From what I could tell, his pupils are the same size, indicating he hasn't suffered any major brain injury. I do strongly suspect that the triggerfish was responsible for making a meal out of a newly introduced clam. The clam was nothing but a clean shell come the morning time. Whether it was a triggerfish or one of the wrasses, this tank is going clamless. Other than that, I do have a large-sized brittle starfish, which can be a little creepy, especially when it extends its arms out from underneath the rocks. I also have several fire shrimp, a couple of skunk shrimp, I think, and a diminishing population of hermit crabs and snails. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.